It's now 6 p.m. I'd like to call to order the Regional Planning Commission business meeting for Thursday, March the 14th. And I'd like to ask Mr. Servon if he'd lead us in the pledge. Thank you all for coming tonight, and I would ask that if you have a cell phone or any kind of electronic device that you put it on vibrate or turn it off so it won't disturb us here at this meeting. Chris, I'll now come to you for the roll call and determination of quorum.
Mr. Peterman?
Present.
Mr. Servon?
Present.
Mrs. Karcher?
Present.
Mr. Gavry?
Here.
Mr. Mills?
Yes, here.
Mr. Davis?
Here.
Mr. Jester?
Here.
Mr. Chairman, we do have a quorum.
Thank you, sir. Commissioners, before you, you have tonight's agenda. If there's no additions, deletions, or any changes at all, I'd entertain a motion and a second to approve.
Motion approved. Second.
I have a motion and a second. Chris, call the commission.
Mr. Peterman?
Yes to approve.
Mr. Servon?
Yes to approve.
Mrs. Karcher?
Yes to approve.
Mr. Gavry?
Yes to approve.
Mr. Mills?
Yes to approve.
Mr. Davis?
Yes to approve.
Mr. Jester?
Yes to approve.
Mr. Chairman, you have 7 votes yes to approve the agenda as presented.
Also, Commissioners, you have a set of minutes for February the 8th, 2024. If nobody has any corrections, additions, or deletions, I ask for a motion and a second to approve them.
So move. Second.
I have a motion and a second. Chris, call the commission.
Mr. Peterman?
Yes to approve.
Mr. Servon?
Yes to approve.
Mrs. Karcher?
Yes to approve.
Mr. Gavry?
Yes to approve.
Mr. Mills?
Yes to approve.
Mr. Davis?
Yes to approve.
Mr. Jester?
Yes to approve.
Mr. Chairman, you have 7 votes to approve the minutes from the February 8th, 2024 RPC meeting.
And Mr. Connolly, I'd like to welcome you to our meeting tonight. It's glad to see you in that seat, and hope we have a great meeting.
Thank you.
Before you now, you have the levy court action and the commission recommendations. You can see what they did. If you have any questions, you can see staff after this meeting tonight. Now getting into new business. First part of new business tonight is C-23-10, Artist Drive, Artist Drive Solar One, LLC, Jones, J. Richard, and Joan Mead, requests conditional use approval of a community energy generating facility, solar, located outside the growth zone overlay district. I think we had quite a discussion last week, and most of us have gone out there and inspected the sites. And we're really not happy with what's gone on for the last 20 years. We have seen that they had a problem out there. The drainage out there was awful. And Mr. Jones had to kind of kick the can down the road, but I think we're going to start taking care of it tonight. We're going to make it better for the landowners there, and they won't be able to do anything on the solar until the drainage is all addressed. So now, does any of the commissioners have anything they'd like to say? Go ahead, Mr. Davis.
I just have a question. I don't think it was mentioned last week, but I figured I wasn't listening properly. Is this being leased or is this being sold?
As I understand, the property is leased, but I believe a representative of the solar company is online that could potentially address that if I'm incorrect.
Yeah, that was Denise. And is the gentleman online that was there last week, or is there somebody in the audience would like to answer that?
It's being leased.
We want a representative of the solar, or who? Is he online, Mark?
Yes, we saw.
Excuse me, Commissioners. This is Claire Habel speaking. I'm the project developer for this proposed project, and I can confirm that the land is being leased.
Thank you very much. It's been committed that it is being leased from the property owner. He did not sell it. So, you have something you want to say, Mr. Davis?
I just got a couple of comments. I'm really concerned about this application. I know there's things been stated by the applicant that they're going to do this, they're going to do that. But I also noticed when I read the Kent Conservation District, there was only some recommendations. A recommendation is nothing firm. It's just a recommendation. You can do it or you cannot do it. It doesn't make any difference. I have really concerns about this place because I'm not against solar. I don't think this is the right place to put the solar. In my judgment, that piece of land is nothing more than wetlands. And I feel sorry for those people. They've tried for years. Nobody will help them. It's private property. The Kent Conservation District hasn't touched it. The State Delaware Department of Natural Resources hadn't touched it. And I feel sorry for those people. Now, if this was such a good piece of land, then why did the previous owner, his name was Jones from Rehoboth, why has he been pumping that thing out for 20 years? Because there's a problem, that's why. So I just hope that when we vote, and I know there's mixed feelings about this, that they're going to do this and they're going to do that. But keep in mind, since we've been approving these solar panels in this county, I only know one, Chairman Jester told me tonight, they just started the construction, that's down to Harrington. The one up on Route 9 has never been started. There's other ones that haven't been started. And I don't know when they're going to start. So the way I look at it, it's not fair when these people have a problem. If this company doesn't start, that's 3 or 4 years or whatever, and they got to put up this water problem. When you look at the photographs, that's pretty serious. That guy's been pumping water for years. So that's my comments. You vote the way you want. I know how I'm going to vote on it. I'm not happy with this thing at all. And I think my responsibility is not only to represent the applicant, but to represent the people who live through the adjoining property. And that's what I'm going to do tonight. I'm not picking sides for nobody, but I have a moral obligation is to represent those people that have concerns. Nobody's heard the voice yet. I've heard the voice, and I'm going to take the appropriate action how I feel about it. Thank you.
Is there a representative in the audience for this solar? Is there anybody in the audience at all? We got one online, Ms. Habel.
Yes, sir.
Can we get a commitment from you as we go through this that if it does go on and gets passed, that you will address the drainage before you go ahead and rebuild all the solar, so it can be one of the first things that are addressed? Because I really think it ought to come out of Mr. Jones's pocket because he hadn't been approving of it. But can we get a commitment from you that if there's no movement on the solar, that you will still come out there and address the drainage first?
What I'm comfortable committing to is investigating the cause of the drainage issues on the site and discovering what the corrective action could be. Where I'm not a hydrologist and I'm not a civil engineer, my counterparts couldn't attend this evening, but I can commit to further exploring the cause of that drainage issue and taking appropriate action.
Did you get copies of what the Kent Conservation had said? Was it passed on to you people?
Yes, you're talking about the letter that was submitted after our hearing last week.
Well, after discussing last week, it was from Mr. Jared Atkins, and he's a very respectable conservation engineer, and he has some things that are already could be put in the works. But you know, we all have concerns about this. These landowners have put up with this drainage for a long, long time, and we'd like to see it addressed first, even if you didn't get into the solar. Can we at least get that commitment from you?
I can commit to exploring what the cause of that is and addressing that as a first order of business. That is something I can commit to, yes.
Well, I think it's already been addressed, and Mr. Jared Atkins has done it through the district because it's one of their responsibilities. Because, you know, it was close to being tabled tonight because some of our commissioners weren't happy with how the property owners were being treated. And unless we hear a firm commitment, I don't know what's going to happen on the floor when we take the vote. You understand?
I understand, sir. I think if I'm recalling correctly, that the letter from Mr. Atkins describes that they don't necessarily take a position on solar, but that they feel that solar might be one of the better options for improving drainage issues. And the on-site dishes and drainway be reconstructed to allow for proper drainage. Is that what you're referring to?
Well, yes and no. It was on page 2 of the letter from him. It recommended that if the project moved forward, that the on-site ditches and drainage way be constructed to allow for proper drainage of surface prior to the installation of the solar arrays, and that the arrays be installed to allow for future maintenance access to any of these drainage channels. Do you see that on the second page of his letter from Mr. Atkins?
Yes. Yes, that's what I'm referring to as well. That's something we can commit to working with Mr. Atkins on prior to moving forward with the project. If it's a simple solution of maintaining the drainage ditches and improving the flow, that's something that that's been identified and that we can address most certainly.
I think Denise has got a question for her.
Yeah, I did my little walk this morning. I got a little exercise at around 8:30 today. And correct me if I'm wrong, I believe where the solar panels and all will be is not in the area where the drainage seems to be horrendous. And I guess my question is, are you leasing this entire property? And if you are, then you'll be equally responsible for anything that's even outside of where the solar panels will be, correct?
I believe there were updated plans submitted to the commission that showed the lease area for the proposed facility, which is encompassing of the panels and equipments and access road. And then there is a smaller red line showing where we've taken a further easement. So we're not leasing and paying a lease rate on that area, but it is an easement that we've taken up, and that's going to be in that southwest corner. It is in the area of discussion this evening. I'm not exactly sure where the line is drawn, if it actually is drawn in the middle of that neighbor's drainage issues, but we can amend that easement to include the entirety of that southwest portion. But what we are not doing is leasing the entire property, no.
Mr. Conley, are they actually leasing the part that we keep talking about as far as the drainage problems?
I think she just covered that they can. That southern portion, that was, I mean, she can confirm she's still on. If that would include everything that's south and west of the existing panels that you see on Exhibit B.
Yeah, I could confirm that we are not leasing that area and that we will likely not lease that area. But what we are doing is we have an easement in place as the solar facility. Artist Drive Solar One LLC has an easement in place with the property owner for that southwestern portion. And I can include every portion of that area in the easement with the stipulation, the explicitly stated stipulation that there's an onus to maintain the drainage ditches in an appropriate manner. But we
Go ahead.
I'm sorry, sir, go ahead.
No, go ahead. You can finish your statement.
The lease area that we will typically take for a solar project is encompassing of the panels and the equipment and everything inside of a fence line. And the easement described previously, currently, it just describes the responsibility to maintain the grass and do mowing and things of that nature. But as a condition of a permit, should we receive one, we can certainly reflect that easement to describe the responsibility for maintaining the drainage ditches appropriately, so it has an effective flow.
I understand and that and all, and we only had a small drawing of this. We didn't have the large one, the 24 by 36. We only had a little.
Did you receive the copies we overnight?
Okay. It seems like the more questions I have, the more questions I have. I know that sounds like double talk, but that seems like I'm not getting the answers that I think are straight, and it seems like to me that maybe we ought to do something different than what we was going to do with this. Mr. Davis, go ahead with your comments.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I think in all fairness to the solar company and to the adjoining neighbors, there's only one right thing to do here. This has got to be done right. Now, Mr. Atkins has offered his assistance to the solar company to help them draw the plans, which I think is great. I don't think we have enough information tonight is to get this thing right. He said and she said we will not. There's too much unknown here, and I don't think we should be voting on that. So in order to be fair with both sides, I'm talking about the solar company and the adjoining neighbors, I'm making a motion that this is tabled for 90 days until they come back with a plan that's been approved by the Kent County Conservation District. And I know I'll be happy, I think the neighbors will be happy, and as you said earlier, it would be addressed and it's over with. So I make a motion that is tabled for 90 days and move forward, and they can come back and they can present their case. Thank you.
Okay, there's a motion on the floor, but I think there's more comments that want to be talked about. Mr. Servon?
Yeah, I have one comment about the motion that we have in front of us. One of the provisions of the motion is that drainage way shall be constructed. That's part of the condition of this motion, of this application.
I'd like to make another comment on what he just said.
So, I mean, if we approve this, then that's what needs to happen before they can, well, I didn't get the comment.
That's the I think that's the comments made by the engineer. Those comments are not a motion. My motion is trying to be fair with both sides and have it delayed for 90 days, and that's going to give them plenty of time to work all those issues out, because you're talking about DENRAC, you're talking about the Kent Conservation District, you're talking about a lot of things here. And so my motion has nothing to do with what I think you have in front of you. I think that's the part of the report. My motion is have it tabled. If you want it a little bit
Part of our
less,
motion that we had in front of us, yeah.
if you want it a little bit less, I'll be happy to entertain that. But I'm not in favor of voting on this thing tonight with all the unknowns. Thank you.
Mr. Mills, I think you have comment?
Well, I'd just like to pass on one comment. I talked to the president of the Soil Conservation this week, and he simply laid it out. They got no money to do any construction work on any ditches, nor will they provide any, and do they have any equipment to do it with. The owner, they will do the engineering. This Mr. Jarrett will do the engineering of what needs to be done. But that money has to come from the owner of that property, and it has to be constructed before, when we approve, if whatever we approve, it has to be constructed before this company can go on that land and put anything on it.
I think Mrs. Carter has something she'd like to say.
The first one is, I think I need to see in writing from the company, from the solar company, that even though the units, the area that is considered the worst, if you will, when it comes to the drainage, does not appear on what we received, I don't think it's in the area that's being leased. Now, she said she would, that they would consider it an easement, but I think I need something in writing for that. And I don't think, by the way, I don't think it was made very clear last week that it wasn't the entire place that was being leased. In fact, they didn't even discuss the fact that it was being leased. We didn't know one way or the other, so that was a little disturbing. The next question I have is for you. Is 90 days too much?
Mr. Davis's motion indicated the need for having a plan. You could potentially word it that 90 days would be an update, or if they were able to get it in sooner, we could plan to bring that back to a business meeting in front of you if they got it done in a faster manner.
I would agree with that. If less than 90 days, that has been, we see the final approval from the Kent County Conservation District, I would amend my motion to say that, yes.
I'll second the motion of Mr. Davis.
I would like some clarity on the motion. I would think that the solar company would actually show us the entire area that they're leasing. An area on a plan that's actually got red parameter around it to show the area that they are going to be accepting responsibility for, along with the design of this. Does anybody else have any comments before we take a vote?
Just that
Harvey?
when we're talking about having this in writing, and I agree, I just want to make sure that there isn't wiggle room. I mean, I'm even looking at the motion that we had before, is that, you know, that it will be mitigated to what standard, whose standard. There should be some standard in which this mitigation is held to. So that has to be some sort of engineering,
That would be the Conservation District would have the oversight of this.
and they will
That's-
sign off on that.
That would be the ones that would have to sign off.
Okay.
Being it's not a tax ditch area, which they can come in with their equipment.
Right.
This is private property.
Right.
So they would be going out to others to do the construction and all, and the monies wouldn't come out of Kent Conservation
I
anyway.
understand that. I just wanted to make sure that they would still go ahead and certify it, even though it wasn't coming out of their funding.
Mr. Conley, have you got all that down? If we're talking about a motion here, and could you read it back?
Could I read it back?
That's what I'm asking you.
Can I listen to the tape again, or? No, as I understood, Mr. Davis said 90 days, but they could come back sooner if they could get a plan that's approved by the Conservation District and to clearly show the easement area beyond the leased area. The other thing I'd mention to you, Mr. Chairman, is Ms. Habel has raised her hand again. I don't know if she wants to clarify prior to a vote or if you'd take that or not.
Yeah, I'm going to ask, Mr. Peterman wants to say something before we actually go to vote, then I'll go to her.
I want to make sure that Mr. Davis's motion got a second.
Yes, it already got a second.
Hear you.
Yeah, it got a second.
Okay.
Ma'am, would you like to say something else online? I see your hand's been raised.
Yes, thank you. I just want to confirm that the commission did receive physical, larger printed copies of our proposed plan that does show the lease area and easement area separately with red lines. The more prominent red line being the leased area and the thinner red line showing our easement area. That was provided with overnight shipment to the county. And I know I heard a comment saying that you would like to see that. And I want to confirm that someone at the county received the plans that we sent that included the description that you're asking for.
Okay, on the plans that we just received when we got here tonight, I haven't seen them beforehand. I didn't pick them up because I left them here, but I see a large dash line right around the solar farm itself. Then I see a red line that goes around the entire property. So you're assuming a lease where the smaller red line is, or only the heavy dash line?
Mr. President, I got to bring up a point of order. I got a point of order. She's out of order. We're getting ready to take a vote. We're discussing with the applicant in the middle of a vote. We have the vote, not her.
Yeah, but we're just getting clarity. That's what
I
Denise
think we
asked
all,
for.
I call for the vote. Because I think it's inappropriate is to start a dialogue with the applicant. I think it's out of order.
Mr. Attorney, are we out of order? And you clarified the motion, Mr. Conley, so I guess we can go ahead with that. So please call the commission.
Mr. Peterman,
I vote to table. Motion.
Mr. Servon,
I vote no.
Mrs. Karcher.
Yes, I vote to table. I need to see things in writing, and it needs to be more than, you know, right before I'm supposed to make a decision.
Mr. Gavri,
I wasn't here last week, but I've reviewed all the material and all the correspondence, and with that, I vote to table.
Mr. Mills,
Yes, I vote to table to clarify, and also that they agree that the funds will come from either the owner or the solar panel people to correct this water problem.
Mr. Davis,
Yes, promotion.
Mr. Jester.
Yes, I vote to table it because it seems like the more questions I had, the more questions I had.
Mr. Chairman, we have 6 vote yay, 1 nay on a motion to table.
Okay, the motion has been tabled for up to 90 days, but they do have the right to come back at a sooner time if they have the proper credentials to come back with. This particular project is put on hold. We're now going to our second new business for the night. The actual plan number and title is SL-06-14 revised, Cattail Creek. Location is 0.88 plus or minus acres, 0.88 plus or minus acres, and 29.5 acres within the Cattail Creek subdivision located on the southwest side of the intersection of Barrett's Chapel Road and Buffalo Road, north of Frederica. Applicant and engineer is Morris and Ritchie Associates, care of Charles Barnett, 18 Bowden Circle, Suite 36, Newcastle, Delaware, 19720. Owner is Stolly Holding LLC, 16255 Sussex Highway, Bridgeville, Maryland, 19933. Zoning district is AR, agricultural residential. Relation to the growth zone is inside. Levy Court District is the fourth, Mr. Scott. Nature of the request is to relocate the playground and picnic area from parcels 97, 96, and parcel 82. Relocate the gazebo from parcel 82 to parcel 97. Remove the horseshoe pit on parcel 96. Remove the fencing surrounding all stormwater management ponds and revise the description of the primary entrance sign material from brick to masonry. Is there someone here to represent this project? Please come to the mic. And if you're not an attorney, you can be sworn or affirmed by ours after you give us your name and your address.
Good evening, Charlie Barnett with Morris and Ritchie Associates. I am not an attorney.
Sir, do you swear or affirm to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
You may proceed.
So go ahead with your, I guess you have to tell Mr. Tolliver we miss him having him down here
I will
tonight.
gladly pass that along.
We won't get to see those beautiful contours where we see that landscape front that's been there for the last 20 years.
I'm sure he'll be glad to hear that you've missed him.
Go right ahead with your presentation.
Not a whole lot to add other than what you've read. This is a landscape plan that was originally approved many, many years ago, was updated not too long ago. The property has changed hands as far as the builders interested in it. The current builder has reached out to us and asked for a couple what we would view as minor modifications to the landscape plan, kind of somewhat to bring things up with the times and current marketplace. Those are the four things we're asking for at this time.
Do you have a comment, or do you agree with the staff recommendation that was in the file?
Obviously, we would agree with the fact that the staff recommended approval of the three of the four things we were asking to do. The recommendation for replacement of the horseshoe pits, just be glad to talk about that some more. The hope or the intent, I guess, of the current builder was to be able to leave that open space as just an open area that could be used, whether it be kids kicking a soccer ball around or throwing a football without having anything in the way or to impede them. There's not a lot of, field space, I guess, on this subdivision. So to be able to have something that didn't have any restrictions like that, the removal of those horseshoe pits were kind of a twofold thing, one of which horseshoe pits aren't really a popular thing at the times anymore, so they're no longer something that really entices people. And second of all, if you're not using them, it's nothing but a metal spike sticking up out of the ground for kids that are running around, kicking a soccer ball, throwing them,
That's
having a catch,
correct.
something like that. So our intent was to just leave that one corner, that one open space, which is to the top left-hand side there, right there. Yep, just leave that as an open field where that possibility is open. But if
Okay,
there's-
I'm going to open it up to the commissioners if anybody has any questions. Mr. Mills?
Part of it says remove the fence surrounding all stormwater management pond. Do you feel that's a safe issue to move those fences with all the kids that are in that development?
We do. That's a common practice throughout the county now and most of the state of Delaware. The ponds are designed to have slopes that aren't too steep. They also have a protective bench right at the water surface so that if someone were to slide or roll down the hill, they would have a flat landing area before they get into the deep part of the pond. So we've talked to the Kent Conservation District about that. They don't have any wanting for the fences around the ponds either. Sometimes it's a little bit of a maintenance issue to get gates open, gates maintained, in and out.
We'll ask you to keep the mic up close because some of us up here might be a little harder hearing, so.
My
appreciate
apologies.
that.
Sorry about that.
That take care of your question, Mr. Mills? Anybody else have any questions for this? Thank you, sir. Appreciate
Thank you very
your-
much.
Appreciate your presentation. Having said that and all, I'll get back to the commissioners. Anybody like to make a motion? Denise?
I move that the Regional Planning Commission grant modified approval of the revisions to SL-06-14 Cattail Creek, removing the safety fences surrounding the stormwater ponds, revising the entrance sign design, and modifying the open space improvements to those shown on the plan submitted by the applicant, with the following modification: that an alternative amenity of similar size shall be provided in place of the horseshoe pits. This is based upon the finding that the revisions are being targeted towards the needs of the current residents, that they may reduce maintenance costs for the homeowners association, and that this modification doesn't substantially change the character of the initial approval of the project.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Chris, call the commission.
Mr. Peterman,
Yes to approve.
Mr. Servon,
Yes to approve?
Mrs. Karcher,
Yes to approve.
Mr. Gavri,
Yes to approve.
Mr. Mills,
Yes to approve.
Mr. Davis,
Yes to approve.
Mr. Jester.
Yes to approve as stated.
Mr. Chairman, you have 7 affirmative votes on a motion to grant a modified approval.
Thank you very much. And like I said, make sure Mr. Tolliver, you can tell him hi. Good luck with your project. We'll now go into our third new business for the night. Plan number and title is SLV-24-05, Burke & Burke Properties, LLC. Location is 2.5 plus or minus acres located on the southwest side of Reynolds Road, Road 423, 0.22 miles north of Thompsonville Road, Road 19 north of Milford. Applicant is Burke & Burke Properties, LLC, 1514 Bay Road, Milford, Delaware, 19963. Owner is Burke & Burke Properties, LLC, 503 Lakewood Drive, Milford, Delaware, 19963. Engineer is SiteWorks Engineering, care of Edwin Tenafos, 19 Commerce Street, Harrington, Delaware, 19952. Zoning district is AR. Present use is residential. Proposed use is same with a one-lot minor subdivision. Relation to the gross zone is outside. Levy Court District is the 4th, Mr. Scott. Nature of the request is applicant requests a waiver from subsection 18758 G cul-de-sac street requirements, subsection 187-58J, gross density of 1 dwelling unit per 2 acres, subsection 187-58J, 4, minimum right-of-way width of 50 foot and a minimum roadway width of 18 feet, and subsection 187-53A, private street construction requirements. Thank you for your patience tonight to hear all this, but we'll get through it. Is there someone here to represent that project? Are you an attorney?
I am, sir.
Okay, you won't have to be sworn in.
Okay.
We will believe you for every word you give us, so. Thank you very much, and go
I'll
ahead.
do my best not to swear at all.
Go ahead with your presentation.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you for your time. My name is Angela Fowler, and I am here on behalf of Burke & Burke Properties. I will be very brief in addressing you. I want to start by saying that I understand and appreciate the import of the county planning and zoning rules and regulations of which we speak tonight. I am a resident in the growth zone myself. I happen to live in Magnolia, so I am entirely familiar with the impacts of growth and how difficult they can be and the challenges that can be presented with infrastructure and everyday life, really, when you live in that kind of an area. So I'm also a native of Delawarean, and I both love and appreciate the beauty and the values of our state. So while I stand before you tonight asking you to vary from a number of the very reasonable rules and regulations that are in place, it comes from a place of someone who thinks that they are equally as important. I'm also, however, as I've just noted, an attorney of 25 years in this state, and so I am familiar with the concept that the reason that we have boards such as this is because there is a deep appreciation that on occasion there are circumstances where even when righteous rules exist, it's appropriate to deviate from them, and it's appropriate to take into consideration the environment in which we exist. I believe that the Burke and Burke property is just such an example. I know that you have site maps up here on the board. If I could just have 1 minute, a little bit of latitude. I have my lovely assistant here that I would like to hold up one of our big boards, because I think that that shows you more graphically from an aerial view of where precisely this property is situated, which is key to our request. Would it be okay for him to approach, members?
Yeah, you can walk right down in front of each one of us as long as we can see it. You got to point to it, sir. Don't give any conversation because you have to be in front of a mic and we won't hear you.
I'll be really loud.
You're not loud enough.
Thanks.
There you go.
When I was
Okay,
on the bench.
can you point it out to us, please?
Absolutely, sir.
Where is north?
North is up this direction. North is this direction.
Okay.
Okay, so there are a number of parcels here. This is Route 1 situated here. Mr. Burke owns the business that is right here in this property on this parking lot
I
here.
think he's going to have to hold it up higher so we can
Hold
all
it up
see.
higher.
There you go.
I'm standing in anybody's...
Now, where is the two entrances into the parcel? There's one comes in from one road and
There's
one
an
from
entrance that comes in through this parking lot here, and then there's another entrance back here. So there's one in the back, and then there's one in the front through this parking lot.
Do all the commissioners understand this?
Can you see what I'm saying? I'm sorry.
I just have a question while we're moving along.
Yeah, the reason I want to point out the entire aerial view is because while this parcel here, where the circle and this mobile home is the one that we seek subdivision for, Mr. Burke also owns this property. He owns 2 lots on this side over here, and then in the center, there are 3 additional lots that are owned by unnamed folks who are not, to the best of my knowledge, present tonight. I don't know their names and the like.
Mr. Davis has a question right off the bat.
Yes, sir?
Yeah, I'm very familiar with that, but the road that we're talking about that the county wants you to blacktop and cul-de-sac, is that entire road owned by the Mr. Burke?
It is, and we have a more close-up view of the road itself, if that helps.
Yeah, all I need to know, does he own what we're talking, or what's in this application? He owns the whole bit himself.
Yes.
Isn't it true that on one end he had to block it off because so much traffic coming through there?
Yes.
Okay, thank
He
you.
did. And
Thank
he
you.
was willing to remove that. In fact, we sought, as part of our application to this group, approval from the state fire marshal and indicated to them whatever their preference was. The fence at the end could be removed, or they could be given the code to control it, whatever they wanted for purposes of public safety.
Well, I can tell you our fire district, there's many companies that protects it, and I can tell you we can get our fire trucks in there off of Reynolds Road, no problem at all. Thank you.
I appreciate that, sir. And that's precisely what we were told by the fire marshal. The reason, you can step back now.
Can
The
I ask
reason-
a question?
Sure, of course.
Has this gone through DelDOT at all yet, or are you waiting for all the clearance from us?
We're waiting for all the clearance from this,
Because-
although I don't expect a DelDOT issue.
Well, the DelDOT has a problem anymore when you have 2 ways in, especially if you have two. If you don't have 2 ways on one road though. You got 1 way on one road, 1 way on the other,
That is correct.
and you could actually access each parcel separately
That
from
is
one
correct.
road or the other if you had to divide it up like that. Because being in survey quite a while, I knew you used to get beat up by DelDOT when you had a circle drive or something like that. They always wanted you to close it. So got to be careful with that kind of thing. So you are familiar that the county is recommending denial?
I am, sir, and the reason that I wanted to point out the entire parcel instead of just the one that's at issue tonight is because the way this is a unique piece of property. It's a very discrete, isolated piece of property. And the way this property was originally subdivided was done so prior to the existence of any of the current county rules. I wanted to show you the entire aerial view because, frankly, there's not a single residence in that entire grouping of the 8 or 9 lots that I showed you. There's not a single resident living there who could sustain or could stand up to the current requirements. None of those parcels meet the current zoning requirements. But because it's so isolated, it really has just a road on one side of it and Route 1 on the other side of it. It's not even visible from the highway. You can see none of this. It does absolutely nothing to detract from what I would anticipate to be the philosophical underpinnings of the county plan, and we think that it's really important to be mindful of that. In fact, I think that might be our strongest argument for why this particular parcel deserves some consideration for a waiver, because it is so different. It doesn't touch on anything. It doesn't impact anyone else.
I have a question, but then I got a question here to my left also. Is there someone living back there now?
There's someone living on part of the parcel. Do you want to hold that? Or you see the circle there?
Well, I mean, we have it in front of us. You can actually put your finger down on the screen and point at it. You don't even have to do it. Just they're actually living in that trailer.
There is someone living in that mobile home that has been upgraded significantly, and it is the parcel next to it that we are trying to build the single-family residence on.
Okay, I think Mrs. Karcher has a question for you.
Yes, ma'am.
My question goes to those other empty lots and such. I can tell you that if someone buys them and wants to use that entranceway to get to those lots, we won't pass that.
Those aren't empty lots, I don't think. I think they're owned by, I'm not sure precisely which one you're talking about, but there's somebody who owns all those parcels right now.
Oh, I understand someone owns them, but they're not built on, and I know. I guess I'd like your help with that. I mean, okay, one, just 2 for a subdivision is a lot different than if we're adding 3 and 4 and a road that's not paved.
Right. Like currently, they're just asking to basically split the main block of that property. But and they have the access that comes in already to the mobile home that's there. So that's really the crux of the request.
And we've indicated a willingness to take whatever steps that the county believes are necessary to make that road appropriate.
Okay, I think we have some more questions up here before you proceed.
Sure.
Mr. Mills got one? Whatever.
I like to weigh in on this just a little bit. I know these people. I only know them bought a couple signs from his business. That property up there in the right corner, up in the far part, you see that point up there, was owned by a lady that was my cousin years ago. And that property all through there, and that road that goes from that market, you can't see it now, the service station goes all the way through. When she passed away, they wanted to sell the property. And I know the realtor that had that property listed. And she could not sell that property because it was so in such dissolution because of the fact of the noise of the service station, the trash. That road became a dump. Bid cushions on it, refrigerators all over that place. These people had a vision. They went to that realtor and they purchased part of that property right there. And they cleaned that property up with their own resources and their own equipment and their own vision that they had to clean up all of that property through there. If you look at his business, you can't see it out front. But the back of the property looks better than the front. So, I mean, they keep everything totally neat, and they've done an excellent job of correcting the sound and the trash by putting up those berms that you see right there and those group of trees that they put up along there totally stop the trash from collecting all up there, and they put the gate up at the driveway, and that stopped that traffic from going through there. So these people need some help on what they're trying to do, because their vision goes beyond what the regulations are on our, if we had everybody's vision like they've got in this county, we wouldn't need no regulations. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Mills. I would ask staff, if this goes through the minor subdivision, I might get back to you, young lady, in a minute.
Yes, sir.
But if is this going to be actually divided off as a road all the way through there and named? And is there going to be 2 lots back here, one acre lot, and the other the balance of what's back there? Is that how staff is looking at it?
Yes, the plan would create the 2 lots that were, I can pull that up.
Yeah, because we got this small plan, and I can't read any of it, to be honest with you. It's too small.
It would create the 2 lots. One would be an acre. The other one is the subject of the variance request, which goes to the Board of Adjustment, which is 0.77 acres, and then a parcel for the driveway that's there now.
So that would be a driveway that comes between the two. And the roadway itself would actually be split out as a designated roadway and be named, correct?
That's correct.
I just want to get clarity on that. Does the commissioners all understand this? The 1 acre lot and then the balance. So it looks like, okay, go ahead. Mr. Servon?
Would the road remain private?
Yeah, it'll be a private road name that they'll have to get approved through the county, through GIS.
That's correct.
That'd be for 911 so that, you know, the fire service and all will be able to know where it's at.
That was the discussion that we had with the state fire marshal when we said, we'll take down the fence, we'll give you the code, whatever you want us to do to make the road traversable and safe. Obviously, we don't want to create any public safety issues. In fact, we don't want to do anything that impacts the overall county plan. We just don't think this does, because this land is so discreet. Nobody sees it. It doesn't touch other properties. I mean, it is one thing to say you should not be approved because that's the rule, but sometimes it's not the way things work. I mean, let's face it, we could all stand here and agree that gambling is a bad thing, and we pass an ordinance that says no gambling. That doesn't mean we want the SWAT team to head into the Modern Maturity Center and kick the door down. You know, it's a good idea to enforce rules when they serve a purpose. It's not a great idea to enforce rules when there's not a stated purpose. And frankly, in the recommendation that Ms. Kiefer made, she basically just said this would break a lot of rules, so it undermines the plan. She didn't say how it undermines the plan. She didn't say it detracts aesthetically. She didn't say it has a conservation issue. She didn't say any of that. She just said, well, it violates a lot of rules, so you shouldn't get it passed. That's why I disagree with what she said, because there's not a good reason. I've given you a bunch of them. This man is nearing retirement. He has a business that's been important in our community and has been important with municipalities all around here. I mean, he does extreme graphics. He wraps police cars and all school buses, all kinds of stuff. If his son is unable to relocate to Delaware and take over this business, our community loses that business.
We understand that, ma'am. We understand. Thank you very much.
Okay.
I do have a question, Mr. Conley. It looks like to me both parcels are planning on going out to the front of their house, out to the front and going to the right, and the rest of the area is not going to be utilized down there where he's got it blocked off. Am I correct or not correct?
The blocked off area that you're probably talking about right there,
Yes.
that would simply be a portion of the lot area for where the mobile home is now.
Well, it looks like with the problems they had earlier when they didn't have it blocked, would once again reinitialize themselves and be come back in if they didn't keep that blocked. Am I correct?
Well, he would still retain control of how that's blocked today. Just subdividing wouldn't change any of that. He still owns the property.
Yeah, because like Mr. Mills said, with the trash dumped on the parcel and people using it as a thoroughfare, I would think that would be something they would really think about, is to keep that blocked off and just use the road out to the right. Mr. Davis?
Well, I'll be upfront about it. I didn't even know why we even here having this discussion. I lived in that area my entire life as a young boy, and I don't know the family here, but I know a lot about that road because I own property in Milford Neck, and I slip through there once in a while. But I do want to know I never threw no beer cans or like that on your property. It's a shortcut. I don't even know why we're here today. Somebody doesn't apparently understand. If you have to build to the highway standard, you got to put type C asphalt on there. You got to put so much structure run there. I just did a real small job for a place I have, and it's 23 by 23, had to meet Deltot's requirements, handicap parking. It cost me $10,000. And can you imagine what's going to cost these people doing that? Those people are not bothering a soul. They're trying to clean it up. They're good people. I don't know them, but I've heard a lot of nice things about them. I don't even know why we even sit in this room having this discussion. Because I think it's a sad thing that they're trying to push him to do a road like they are. Anyhow, that's my comments. I think Mr. Mills has a motion he wants to read. We'd like to move on.
We've got to go for the anybody else would like to say anything? I know Mr. Mills has already asked me to read the motion, so. Any other commissioners? Okay, Mr. Mills, go ahead and read the motion.
I move the Regional Planning Commission approve SLV-2405. Approve the request of waivers from the permitted density for a subdivision of a private street and the private street design and construction specification for the purpose minor subdivision as described in section 187-58J 2 and 4, 5.3A 4, and 5.8G 1 and 3, as the property was clearly designed to accommodate 2 lots, but the applicant is faced with a hardship due to the historical irregularities of the lots surveyed in this area over the years, for example, Wayne D. Avenue, and the minimum easing of the strict adherence to the modern county code requirements is necessary to rectify this, while still being added to adhere to the intent of the current code requirements. In addition, the turnaround waiver is in the public interest, as it will help reduce the number of vehicles entering and exiting onto Route 1 in a high-speed area.
I have a motion. Do I have a second?
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Chris, call the commission.
Mr. Peterman?
I vote yes as pertaining to Mr. Mills's motion.
Mr. Servon?
Yes, as per the motion.
Mrs. Karcher?
Yes, per the motion.
Mr. Gavry?
Yes, as per the motion.
Mr. Mills?
Yes, as the motion stated.
Mr. Davis?
Yes, vote for the motion. Thank you.
Mr. Jester?
Yes, for all reasons stated in the motion.
Mr. Chairman, you have 7 affirmative votes on a motion to approve the waivers as requested.
Thank you, and we appreciate you cleaning it up, and good luck with your project. We'll now go to our next project. Application number and title is S-24-01 Caliber Collision. Applicant is Melanie Bagley, Victory Development, 2911 Turtle Creek Boulevard, Suite 700, Dallas, Texas, 75219. Owner is Michael C. and Rex A. Gibson, 1258 Bay Road, Dover, Delaware, 19901. Engineer is Alexander E. Schmidt, P.E., Century Engineering, 555 Bay Road, Dover, Delaware, 19901. Comp plan map designation is medium density residential. Zoning district is BG, general business. Relation to gross zone is outside. Present use is residential. Proposed use is auto repair. Proposed building size is 16,100 square feet. Water and wastewater is the city of Dover and Kent County. Levy Court District is the 5th, Mr. Sweeney. School District is Capital. Fire District is Dover, Robbins Hose, Station 46. Area and location is 2.60 plus or minus acres. Land located on the west side of Bay Road, County Road 7, approximately 366 feet south of Lafferty Lane, County Road 347, south of Dover. Is there someone here to represent this application? Please come to the mic. And I assume you're probably an engineer, so we'll have to get you, give us your address and be affirmed or sworn.
I am not the engineer. I am Melanie Bagley. I'm the applicant. I'm representing the developer, Victory Development. My civil engineer is also here this evening should you have any technical questions.
Okay, well, give us your name and address, and you can be sworn or affirmed.
Yes, sir. My name is Melanie Bagley. Again, I represent Victory Development. The address is 2911 Turtle Creek Boulevard, Dallas, Texas, 75219. I come before you.
Ma'am, I-
Oh, yes. By all means.
Do you swear or affirm to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yes, sir.
You may proceed.
Thank
Go
you
right
so
ahead
much.
with your application.
Thank you so much. We have been working with our planner for the last several months on this project, have read through the conditions at great length, have shared them with our consultants, civil, architectural, and construction team. And with regard to Section A, conditions of approval for motor vehicle sales, service, storage, rental, and repair, we are willing to comply with all the conditions set forth in this section. With regard to the general conditions for all uses that are specifically related to parking, landscaping, et cetera, we have no qualms complying with every condition in this section. And then in Section C, additional requirements, this particular section pertains to some of the outside agencies, submittals, local, state, et cetera, that are required as a condition of us actually starting construction. I can assert to you all that we have made most, if not all, of these submittals to the agencies, including DOT. We are in for Kent County Conservation District. We've submitted to Kent County Department of Public Works and City of Dover. The last that remains is the Office of the State Fire Marshal. So we have great intent to move forward with this project, as evidenced by us taking some risk in making these submittals to the agency, knowing that we could satisfy all the conditions that were set forth before us by our planning staff. So with that, as I mentioned, my civil engineer is here to answer any questions you might have, technical or otherwise. And,
The only question I have, I think, was in the report, was about the lighting in Dover Air Force Base. Was there any kind of comment from them? Do they have to go through them, Chris, to get approval, or what happens?
They did not comment on this project.
So you won't be landing planes there. I
Scot-free.
guess it'll be okay.
yes,
Any of
thank
the commissioners have any comment? Excellent presentation, and I certainly I didn't have to ask if you agreed with all that stuff.
Yes, sir.
So, very good. Anybody any comments or questions? I think you covered it.
All righty, sir. Thank you.
I will now put it to the commissioners. Somebody here like to make the motion? Mr. Garvey?
I move that the Regional Planning Commission grant conditional approval of application S24.01, Caliber Collision, a site plan for the construction of a 17,684 square foot building located outside the growth zone overlay district. This is based on Exhibit A, staff recommendations report dated March 14th, 2024, and the findings of fact that A, the subject site is zoned BG, general business, and subchapter 205-53 of the zoning ordinance permit an auto repair business. B, the plan is compliant with the comprehensive plan. Pursuant to chapters 187 and 205 of the Kent County and pursuant to 9 Delaware subchapter 4802 and 4811, the Commission has reviewed the application and the March 14th, 2024 staff recommendations report, and furthermore, as part of this approval, the applicant shall maintain compliance with all requirements and recommendations of the staff recommendation report, including but not limited to A, DNREC Division of Fish and Wildlife requires that no trees clearing shall occur on site between April 1st and July 31st in order to reduce impact to nesting birds and other wildlife species that utilize forest for breeding. B, a final plan must be approved within 24 months of preliminary plan approval, and construction shall commence within 18 months of final plan approval in accordance with subchapter 187-41.c, or the plan will be considered expired. C, the final plan must meet all requirements of both subchapter 187 and 205 of the Kent County Code and all items in the final plan column of Appendix D of subchapter 187.
I have a motion. Do I have a second?
Second.
Do I have a second?
I got it.
Okay. We have a motion and a second. Call the commission.
Mr. Peterman?
Yes, to approve.
Mr. Servon?
Yes to approve.
Mrs. Karcher?
Yes to approve.
Mr. Gavry?
Yes to approve.
Mr. Mills?
Yes to approve.
Mr. Davis?
Yes to approve promotion.
Mr. Jester?
Yes to approve.
Mr. Chairman, you have 7 affirmative votes on a motion to approve the application as presented. S-24-01.
Thank you for a great presentation, and good luck with your project.
Mr. President, before you start, does the motion I just made on the other one need to be filed with Chris?
Yeah, I'll
Because
take it. I'll take it when
Yeah,
you're
he'll
done.
take it so he can be, we'll make sure it's part of the minutes. Now going to our final project for tonight. Number 5, application number and title is S24-02 U-Haul Company of Delaware. Applicant owner is Americo Real Estate Company, 2727 North Central Avenue, Phoenix, Arizona, 85004. Engineer is Kimley Horn and Associates Incorporated, 620 West Germantown Pike, Suite 320, Plymouth Meeting, Pennsylvania, 19462. Comp plan map designation is highway commercial. Zoning district is BG, general business. Relation to the growth zone is outside. Present use is vacant. Proposed use is mini storage and retail. Proposed building size is 115,115 square feet. Water and wastewater is public water and sewer. Levy Court District is the 5th, Mr. Sweeney. School District is Capital. Fire District is Dover, Station 46. Area and location is 6.72 plus or minus acres. Located on the northwest corner of Bay Road and East Lebanon Road, south of Dover. Is there someone here to represent this application? I know you're all tired of hearing me tonight, I can see that. Please give us your name, pull the mic down so we can hear you, and you give us your name and address and be sworn or affirmed.
Good evening. My name is Jennifer Oltman. I am the civil engineer with Kimley Horn and Associates, 620 West Germantown Pike, Plymouth Meeting, PA.
Ma'am, do you swear or affirm to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yes, sir.
You may proceed.
There you go. Now you can give us a great presentation.
As you can see, we're here tonight asking for that approval for our U-Haul, which is a warehouse structure and a self-storage facility. We have proceeded with all of our outside agency approvals as well. We are currently under the review of DelDOT. We've received fire marshal approval as well. And we have submitted to Kent County Public Works as well as the City of Dover for the drinking water service. This parcel is serviced by the City of Dover for potable water. You may have previously mentioned the Air Force Base. That may have been our application. That there was one particular comment. We did follow up on that. There are no lasers or solar mounted arrays or any other marketing materials that would be interfering with the Air Force Base. And so we did receive a FAA no objection to that as well. So we take no objection to any of the remaining comments that are identified here, pending all of our outside approvals.
So I assume that, are you going to have trucks and trailers parked on this location that belong to U-Haul, or are they going to be in the buildings?
Yes, and just so the board is aware, there is a representative U-Haul on the line. They could unfortunately not be here in person today. But yes, we previously received a variance for the opening of the size of the entrance. There are 2 entrances on this site. The farthest left entrance on your screen is meant to receive large size trucks. They would be delivering material to that warehouse. And the other entrance is meant to receive a box truck, a U-Haul truck, or a regular pedestrian in their vehicle.
I will open it up to the commissioners. Anybody have any questions? Mr. Davis.
Gonna be a nice facility from what I can see. What's the building gonna be used for U-Haul itself? You gonna have office space in there? Is it gonna be a mechanic shop? I'm just curious about it. Has nothing to do with my vote. I'm just kind of curious, what are you going to do with that building?
So there is no office space. The buildings itself is the building on the right that you see, the proposed self-storage. That's an interior self-storage. So one of the ones that you have to have a key card to get in and out of. You can only access it through security. There is a very small retail component to that. So in the top right corner of that building, there is a retail store. That store only sells packaging supplies or cardboard boxes. The other warehouse that we're calling it.
If you want to point on the screen, you can put
Oh.
your finger there and you can slide it where you're talking about.
So this one is the self-storage facility. Again, this one's all self-contained, so there's no pulling up outside to your unit. You have to swipe in and out and bring your material inside. And then right here is a small retail, like I said, that just sells packaging supplies and things. And then the warehouse is just their staging, almost like for pods, if you're familiar. So they come in with material, people who may be long distance moving or who store things for an extended period of time. That is what would be in that building. So the warehouse building has no full-time employees there in that building. The other building would have 3 to 5 employees at any given time on it.
I asked that question because I think the air base has a requirement about the noise. It was the construction of the building, if I'm not mistaken. There has to be a certain kind of construction because of the noise. If you have employees, if you hadn't talked to the base, I think you should be talking to the base. Am I correct on that, Chris? Don't they have a regulation?
Yeah, the base weighed in on this application. I don't think the noise contours of the aircraft have any impact, but they did not mention any type of construction method.
So they're good on that?
Correct.
Good. You don't have to deal with that mess. All right, thank you.
I noticed the building has over 2.5 acres under roof, so 2.6 something, so
Correct.
115,000, wow. That's quite a large, I saw your storm weather was very large. Oh, very nice.
Brought a rendering that was completed by U-Haul. Clearly, this doesn't show the extensive landscaping that we have also proposed, but it just shows how the building will look from the roadway.
So what's on the second and third story?
So in that building, it would be more storage. So they're
Wow.
units.
So there's like a big elevator that would take things up and down? Is
Yes,
that what
sir.
you do?
Yes.
I'm just newsy. I mean, it's not got anything to do with my vote either, but being in the fire department, I just wondered, and it's going to be interesting because I know it's going to be sprinklered with that large a building, so.
Yes.
Anybody else have any questions? Comments? Thank you. Great presentation, too.
Thank you.
Thank you, thank you. Okay, Commissioners, I'll now put it to you. Does anybody like to make a motion? Denise?
I move that the Regional Planning Commission grant conditional approval of application S-24-02, U-Haul Company of Delaware, a site plan for the construction of buildings totaling 115,115 square feet located outside the Growth Zone Overlay District. This is based on Exhibit A, Staff Recommendation Report dated March 14, 2024, and the findings of fact that A, the subject site is zoned BG, General Business, and Subchapter 205-53 of the zoning ordinance permits a mini storage and warehousing facility, and B, the plan is compliant with the comprehensive plan. Pursuant to chapters 187 and 205 of the Kent County Code, and pursuant to 9 Delaware Subchapter 4802 and 4811, the Commission has reviewed the application in the March 14, 2024 Staff Recommendation Report. And furthermore, as part of this approval, the applicant shall maintain compliance with all requirements and recommendations of the Staff Recommendation Report, including but not limited to A, no spotlights, lasers, or large inflatable objects in advertising. Due to the proximity to an airport, any rooftop solar will need approval by the FAA and the DoD clearinghouse. B, a final plan must be approved within 24 months of preliminary plan approval, and construction shall commence within 18 months of final plan approval in accordance with Subchapter 187-41C, or the plan will be considered expired. And C, the final plan must meet all requirements of both Subchapter 187 and 205 of the Kent County Code and all items in the final plan column of Appendix D of Subchapter 187.
I have a motion. Do I have a second?
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Chris, call the commission.
Thank you.
Mr. Peterman,
Yes, as per motion.
Mr. Servon,
Yes to approve.
Mrs. Karcher,
Yes, per the motion.
Mr. Gavry,
Yes to approve.
Mr. Mills,
Yes to approve.
Mr. Davis.
Yes, to approve. I'm happy here. I had a friend that was a U-Haul dealer in Dover for over 40 years, James T. Clark. He's deceased now, and I know U-Haul's got a good business. Thank you.
Mr. Jester.
Yes, for the project.
Mr. Chairman, you have seven affirmative votes on a motion to conditionally approve application S-24-02.
Thank you very much, and it's very good use of a very odd-shaped lot, and I appreciate you coming to Kent County. Thank you very much, and good luck with your project.
Thank you very much.
We're down to any other public comment? Any other public?
My name is Diane Monaco. I live at 644 Artist Drive, and I just wanted to say thank you.
I think she was sworn in last week.
Yes. And I just wanted to thank everyone who voted to table this. We truly appreciate it.
Thank you very much. We think you've been put up with that long enough.
Yes, thank you.
Now down to commission comment, and I do have mentioned it last week, and I told Sarah that we don't want to see these small plans. I can't read them. I can't read that tiny plan. I can't read anything. It's got to be, and you understand when you get to be over 50, let alone over 70.
It'll be taken care of.
It needs to be 24 by 36. And you know, if it's 11 by 17 for small, that the font is at least a 10 or 12, then we could possibly read it. But anything below that, I think the commissioners all agree with me. We need to have larger plans.
I used a magnifying glass tonight to look at that one about that roadway. And I still couldn't read it.
Yeah, you probably set it on fire with the sunshine on it.
I called Felton, they put it right out.
Mr.
Very
Chester.
good. Any other commission comment?
Yeah.
Mr.
Have you
Peterman.
lived here all your life? Yeah.
Since 1852, the whole family. So what else I got to say?
Well, we haven't. We're still living.
Oh, okay.
Problem.
Hey, Chris, do you want these blueprints to give to Levy Court?
Seeing no more business, I entertain a motion.
Anything you don't want, just leave and I'll clean up.
Good.
Entertain a motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Chris, call the commission.
Yes to adjourn.
Mr. Peterman, Mr. Servon,
Yes to adjourn.
Mrs. Karcher,
Yes to adjourn.
Mr. Gavry,
Yes to adjourn.
Mr. Mills,
Yes, to adjourn.
Mr. Davis,
Yes to adjourn.
Mr. Jester.
Yes to adjourn, and thank you very much. And once again, Mr. Connolly, we're glad to see you here.
Thank you.